I wanted to first talk about what we all do every morning, and this is very important for people who work at ODOT, not so much for externals. I'm not sure what your situation is, how you are accessing maybe your company's domain. But here at ODOT, many of us are working remotely. And when we log on in the morning, a logon script runs, and we have an engineering portion of that logon script. And it's not running very well right now. We're all using VPN, virtual private networking, when we log on remotely in the morning. And I want to tell you what we should be doing to have our best results so that our engineering script runs and it corrects things that might have, I don't know, not been working well the day before. If we do an update, that engineering script will copy down the correct files. So here's what I do. I power my computer off. I'm just going to show you where the controls are. This is the computer that I can touch. I power it off by choosing the power options and choosing shutdown as my power option at the end of the day. In the morning, what you want to do is you want to let your computer sit at the Control-Alt-Delete screen, that screen that says press Control-Alt-Delete to log in. You want to let it sit there for as much as 15 minutes if possible. It really needs to sit at that screen for bare minimum of about 3 minutes for your computer to complete everything that it needs to do to create that VPN tunnel, that virtual private network tunnel that allows you access. If we rush it and we don't let it sit and complete what it's doing, what happens is when we log in, we're not fully authenticated. And the engineering logon script, it doesn't run. It doesn't run correctly. So that causes problems. Whether or not you are experiencing problems, you might not be experiencing any problems. But so here's what you do, what you should do. And this is what I do. I get up in the morning after I've powered my computer off overnight. I get up in the morning and I come into my office and I power my computer up and I walk away. I power it up and walk away. I go get breakfast, take my shower, whatever. I come back to the computer when I'm ready to start work. My computer's been sitting there usually for about a half hour, which is awesome. Then I log in. That's perfect. You'll have an F drive when you log in. The engineering script should run. Everything should be wonderful. So I want you to start doing that. Fresh start to the new year. Start letting your computer sit at that Control-Alt-Delete screen first thing in the morning for a few minutes. All right, what are some other things that we can do and how do these things affect your computer? I want to show you how to perform a health check on your computer. When folks have trouble with a logon script not running, or maybe File Explorer is operating really slowly, there are some things that we do. We take shortcuts, and this will cause our computer to run more slowly. So I health check two main places. I use the File Explorer, which I'm going to open up, and I look for mapped drives. And I'm going to show you that I actually have a couple of mapped drives. I've got my C drive. That's a mapped drive. That's okay. C drives are okay. The F drive here at ODOT is mapped by a logon script. If you don't see an F drive, you've got a problem with the way you logged on that morning. And what I would suggest is that you exit everything and you restart your computer and let it sit at that Control-Alt-Delete screen for a minimum of 3 minutes before you log on again. And then you should see that F drive. F drive is good. At ODOT, we all want that F drive. That's our personal server share. I have 2 additional map drives. Those additional map drives are slowing my computer down because they are communicating across the network all the time, about every, 3rd nanosecond. They're sending little pulses. and it takes time to get there. One of those locations, my Z drive, which is at the very bottom of the list of drives, goes to another computer. What can happen a lot of times is those other computers can be powered off. When that other computer is powered off, my computer sits there and it's yelling constantly, "Are you there? Are you there? Are you there?" And it's taking up processing energy from my computer that I want to use to get things done. And what I'll see happen is there's a quick access showing in the address field at the very top of the File Explorer. What will happen if I've got a mapped drive to a location that's not accessible or really slow? I'll see a green progress bar creep across that quick access toolbar. And I can't do anything until it's completed. So it's really frustrating. So my first step in the health check is to convert all of these map drives to shortcuts that live in a network shortcuts folder on my desktop. They don't live right on my desktop in a folder though. So I'm going to convert these and I'll show you that folder. On my desktop, I've got a folder called _network_shortcuts. I'm going to open that folder up. And what we see is that there are some shortcuts there. I would add these shortcuts to those map drives to that location just by creating a new shortcut. That's a right-click, new shortcut. It's also under the new items on the toolbar. And you can type in the path to that shortcut. And of course, this path has to exist. If the path doesn't exist, it will not populate these pull-down lists. You'll see that it's starting to populate things, and I can create my shortcut to my crew share really quickly. I'll just let it be named after the crew share and finish. And there it is. There's my shortcut to my crew share. Now, I had a strange thing happen. Last month, I was informed that my crew number had changed. I was unaware of that. And not only did my crew number change, we changed the name of the share. My previous crew number was 0454, and we can see I've got a shortcut there. That shortcut actually goes to a place right now that does not exist. Is it impacting my performance? No, because the only time I reach out to see if that location exists is when I double click on that shortcut. Oh, and it actually, I updated it, geez. So I updated it behind the scenes to go to crew 0442. But anyway, what would happen is it would say, that's not accessible. And the only time it would say that it's not accessible is when I choose to double click on it. So once I create my shortcut, I right click on that map drive and I disconnect. And I would do the other one. I just did that one. I already did that. Okay. I also have a map drive to another computer, which I already disconnected. And what I would do there, if I wanted to create a shortcut to another computer, again, I would put that in my network shortcuts folder. I would create a new item. This is just another way to access the shortcut. Create a new item in this folder and give it a path. It's going to be // and then the name of the computer. And then the share. We all have a share folder here at ODOT, and if I waited long enough, I can see that it pops up in the list. So I'm going to choose that share folder and click next. And it creates that link basically, so I can access that share folder. So replace your mapped drives, leaving behind your F drive and your C drive, of course. Replace your map drives with network shortcuts. That will help your computer, and that's part of the health check. The other thing that can really suck your computer's resources, and make things run slowly is having printers mapped to locations that are having errors or don't exist. Region 2 replaced all of their printers at the main office, and a lot of people started having problems when they tried to create PDFs from MicroStation. MicroStation and Open Roads Designer, they look at your default printer. And if there's a problem with your default printer, MicroStation gives you grief about it when you try to create a PDF using print. It'll say, I need a valid printer driver configuration file. Here's how we fix that. We go to our printers and scanners. To find that in Windows 10, I'm going to click the magnifying glass icon on my taskbar and type the word print and choose printers and scanners from the pop-up menu. So this lists all of the printers and scanners that I have an attachment to. And I made an attachment just for today so you guys could see what this looks like, because normally I only attach to digital printers. You know, printing to actual printing devices is so 2020, and this is 2022. So what makes this worse is that the little word default is right underneath a PR crew number. It's a physical printer. That's not a digital printer. So I've got all these other digital printers. I've got Bluebeam, Fax, Microsoft Print to PDF. Maybe if you've got Adobe Pro installed, you'll have an Adobe PDF driver there. Any of those digital printers is preferable to having your default. If you actually do use your physical printer and you want to retain that attachment, make sure that there's not an error on it. And then what I would do is select Microsoft Print to PDF, go into Manage, and choose Set as Default. That sets the default printer to a digital printer, which is always available. Now I'm going to hit the back button in the upper left corner to go back to the full list, and we see that the word default has moved to my digital printer. Now when I launch the print dialog in MicroStation, it will always find that digital printer, and there won't be any problems in applying a print style or a pen table. I'll have no problems. If you have a printer that has got an error on it, whether that error is a paper jam, it's out of paper, out of ink, whatever, those errors cause your computer to run slowly. So I highly recommend, if you have something that has a lot of errors, find a different physical device to print to if you need to print to it, and remove the device that is causing your system problems. The way to remove a printer is you select the printer and you choose Remove Device. I'm just going to say yes, remove it. Yes, I really, really, really want to remove it. Now, if you want to add a printer later, you can use the Add a Printer or Scanner button. It's at the top of the printers and scanners. I just wanted to show you how you can do this here at ODOT, because sometimes you go, oh, they need me to print out, oh, what are we doing this month? Paper timesheets, right? Okay, maybe I need to print my paper timesheet out at some office printer someplace. I can add a printer or scanner. I'm going to click Add a Printer or Scanner, and here's my tip. This is going to take quite some time to populate this list. And I see these dots just scrolling across. Well, that's okay. I have a vertical scroll bar that's over on the right-hand side. Use that vertical scroll bar to scroll all the way to the bottom of this really long list, all the way to the bottom, and then come back up a little bit and find the statement that says the printer that I want isn't listed. That's what I want to choose. This will open up a little app. So you have to say, yes, I want to open that little app. And it's the Add Printer app. And it allows me to find a printer in the directory. When I hit Next, it's going to open up the directory and it's going to populate a very long list of search results. The nice thing about this is I can sort by name and I can sort by location. I am accessing this list remotely, so I can't limit my directory by trying to choose a different path. I can't choose region 1 printers, but I know my crew number. And if I sort by name, what we get is I get my local printers. Don't attach to a local printer. I get PRs and PLs, and then there's crew numbers. And so I can choose something that's got the correct crew number. It has the location listed. I can verify that it's the location I want, select it, and then click the OK button. And it will make that printer attachment. I don't ever set a physical printer these days because I'm working remotely. I never make it my default printer. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that and move on to some other tips. Now, MicroStation in particular, I wanted to show a couple of things. Let me show you the reason why you might want to clear your preferences, reasons to clear out old training WorkSets. I've got MicroStation configured to pop up this little project-wise login dialog, and I'm going to cancel out of it. So let's say I wanted to open a file on my C drive. I typically need to choose a WorkSpace and a WorkSet. And I see in my history, because I've been running MicroStation without clearing my preferences, I've got some history here. I last used ODOT Connect, and I last used the ODOT WorkSet. If I choose the down arrow across from the ODOT WorkSet, I see all of these. I mean, this is a really long list. This is a long list of WorkSets that were included with every different class, and that's just too much to scroll through. So I wanted to show you first how to clear out these WorkSets. I still see folks who've got a bunch of WorkSets and they're having to scroll to find ODOT if they've cleared their preferences. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to close this and show you two things. At ODOT, in the engineering desktop folder, we've given you a V10 folder, and there are some shortcuts for clearing preferences. There's a shortcut to clear your MicroStation preferences and a shortcut to clear your ORD preferences. What do these shortcuts really do? Well, what they do is, I'll just open that so we can see, they end up going to a location called the local app data. A quick way for me to get there is to go to my temp folder. What they end up doing is going into your local app data. This is your Windows profile, and they will end up removing the version for the preferences. So if I go into my version 10, I'll see that there's a prefs folder, and inside that prefs folder is my UPF, my user preference file. Those of you who have been at ODOT for a while know that we have problems every once in a while with the UPF getting corrupted. So sometimes you need to reset your preferences because things aren't functioning correctly. You're not seeing the right things. I had somebody this morning, oh, Tracy, she's on. She didn't see the updates that actually happened quite some months ago. She wasn't seeing those in MicroStation. We cleared her preferences and that corrected that issue. So clearing preferences is usually a decent way to deal with that. Let me back out of this MicroStation folder so that we can see what happens when I clear the preferences. I'm going to double click on Clear MicroStation, CE Prefs. My screen flashed and I noticed that the number 10 folder is gone. It just deletes it. When we launch MicroStation again, we will see no history. And this is why I like to clean up the WorkSets Not only do I see no history, MicroStation is back to opening up on my primary screen. Let me drag it over. And I'll see no workspace, no work set. And if I choose ODOT Connect, then I have this really long list again of things to paw through. So let's clear out the training files before I launch MicroStation. The training files are located in your WorkSets root location on your C drive. So I'm going to go to my C drive. Let's close that. So I'm still using File Explorer, going to go to my C drive. There is an ODOT folder, and this is true for internals and externals. We provide this C ODOT folder as part of the downloadable workspace to externals so that you have a connect_projects folder. In there is a personal location to keep cell libraries, personal cell libraries, and personal references. You know, maybe you've got, your team has come up with some files that you like to use as cache files. You could pop those into the MyRef folder, and then when you launch MicroStation, they'd be easily accessible from your attach reference dialog. But right now I want to look at the WorkSets. Here is where I have got all of these WorkSets from every class that I took. Not only the folders, but I've got the config files and the DGNWS files. The easiest way to clear out all of those WorkSets, so I only have the ODOT workset, that's really all we need, is to select everything in this folder. So I'm going to select one thing and use Control-A on my keyboard. It selects everything. I'm going to deselect by holding down my Control key on my keyboard. I'm going to left click on Z Other because I don't want to move that. I'm going to left click on Z Training to deselect it. I'm going to left click on ODOT.config and ODOT.dgnws. They do not need to be included in this group. And I'm going to left click with the Control key held down on ODOT. So now I have 105 items selected. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. I'm going to left click drag all of these folders and files that are selected into the Z training folder. That takes them out of the path that MicroStation looks for WorkSets at. And then when we launch MicroStation, it's going to show me a very short list of WorkSets. So here's MicroStation's open. I also wanted to point out, you'll see a recent WorkSets. There are usually a minimum, what I see is 2 shortcuts here at ODOT. Now, if you're an external, you might see more, but I usually only see 2 different shortcuts here. I'll see one for ODOT Connect ODOT and one for no workspace, no workset. You can choose one of these and it will fill out both boxes for the workspace and the workset. But right now I'm going to choose ODOT Connect under the custom configuration, and notice it populates the workset with ODOT and there's nothing else in the list because I just cleared them all out. So that's why I put all of those under Z training, to get them cleared out. They're still accessible. If I want to go and review my training, I would just grab the chapter, the config file, and the DGNWS and move it back into the WorkSets, and that would make it accessible. All right, let's go ahead and launch MicroStation. Oh, and just to prove this out, these shortcuts at the left can be used at any time to change what is chosen. So when you choose a recent WorkSet, you will also get the list of recent files. Now I have just cleared my preferences, so I have no recent files. If I hit browse, it will take me to the DGN folder that's inside the ODOT WorkSet. If I want to open up a file someplace else, I can navigate to my F drive. I can navigate into that crew share let's see, that crew share was in my network shortcuts, right? So I could navigate there. I don't happen to have any DGNs there, but you can use all those tools. You can use those network shortcuts to navigate to where you have data stored. I'm going to create a brand new file. So I just canceled out. I'm going to create a brand new file right in the DGN folder, and I'm just going to call it Engineering Tips 2. Engineering Tips 2. Save it. And it's going to open that file. Now, I had some other tips that I wanted to show to you. A couple of things about running in MicroStation Connect using the ODOT Connect workspace. Get rid of a few of these things, and I'm going to make this dialog box just a little bit smaller. Okay. Brand new preferences. This is what your brand new preferences look like. We just did an update about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. And what we've got now on the quick access tools is we've got print organizer, we've got the element selection tool, regular print, and you've got your save settings. And of course, there's undo and redo on your quick access tools. The Project Explorer window is open, and it's docked and open at the left. If you wish to open up your properties dialog, I use the properties so much that when we created the default preferences, when you choose to open the properties, it will open docked on the right-hand side, so that when you select items, you get the properties of those items. So that's the default preferences and the changes that we made recently. I had a topic here that I wanted to cover. Oh, that's right. What if I wanted to illustrate something with the Roadway bubble tool? A lot of the ODOT things, well, all of the ODOT things are on the ribbon workflows that start with the word ODOT, clearly. We've got ODOT Roadway there, and there's ODOT plan sheet creation. I did want to draw your attention to there is one ribbon workflow that is simply called ODOT. What appears on the ODOT ribbon workflow are some macros. Anything that's an add-in that is that runs on top of the MicroStation platform, if you have it installed, so like auto turn and guide sign, if you have them installed, they are launched from the ODOT ribbon workflow. And also, you've got all of the bubble note tools for every discipline is here. So FD plans is really Roadway. That is really old language. It's been called FD plans forever. I don't know why. But when I launch, I get, instead of place note Roadway, it's place note FD plans. But this is the Roadway bubble note. When we, let me zoom in so I can see. This is the bubble note that's got the circle around the number. If you choose to draw your leader line, then it will place a leader line without an arrow from the bubble. So that's how it works. You can auto increment it, which is handy if you are doing them in a margin, making those margin notes. And that leads me to, I want to tell you about this margin offset. I had this question the other day. This is an important thing to realize. I don't think any of the other bubble tools have this margin offset because it's usually the Roadway bubbles that are used in the margins for the construction notes. What I want you to notice is that when I'm just hovering over in the bubble note tool for the FD plans, the X, my placement position, is at the center of the circle. It's at the center of the circle. And that doesn't align it well when we want to place it on a little crossbeam hanger for the construction notes. What we do then is we would check the box to toggle on the margin offset. When you toggle on the margin offset, you'll see that this the X has moved from the center to the top center of the text. So what you're going to end up doing is snapping the top of the text to that crossbeam hanger. You can also turn on auto increment, and so that you can go click, 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 and just snap and place them one at a time. Now let me show you how you could do that actually in a sheet that's got the margin note tool. I wanted to just do that really quickly. I'm going to close the bubble note. And let's see, if the bubble is 31A, can you narrow the width? I would narrow the width after placing it. Good question there. If you needed to have a note that was really long and it doesn't seem to fit in the bubble. Wow. That's interesting. Looks like this bubble note tool is limited to numeric. It does not like the alpha. As soon as I enter an alpha character in the tool, it says no. So I'm just going to place the 31 and show you what I would do. Let's use our element selection tool. Get out of the bubble note tool. Use my element selection tool, which was on the other screen. I forgot to drag it over. There's my element selection. I'm going to select that. It's actually made up of two circles. One of them is doing some masking, and it's made up of a text element. You can just edit the text. Yeah, let me edit the text. I'll just double click on that text, and it opens up, and there I see 31, and I can type an A there. And now what we see is that, yeah, it's too wide, right? So yes, you can modify, narrow up those characters. Yeah, so if I had one of these individual ones, I would probably use the modify the text attributes command. It's probably on drawing, annotation, and there's my change text attributes. And let's see what I've got. And I probably should first use my match text attributes. Match my text attributes. Oh, and it's inside the a cell. So yeah, you got to do a bunch of stuff to do this. So you'd have to drop it. And I'll bet you that the modify won't work either. Well, looks like it might actually. So let's just try narrowing the width to 0.00. Let's make it big 3. And yeah, that really did a number on it. But anyway, so it will work through the cell, but it might not be the value that you want to use. So, and this is a good point. Charlotte's saying we need to have alpha characters available. That is a great enhancement request. Can't make that happen today, but we can put that on the list for enhancements. Yeah. So let me just check my attendees. Let's see. We'll see if the right people are here. Yes, the right people are here and hopefully have heard that. So we'll see if we can't get that, the addition of the alpha characters into the bubble note tool. We got a couple other enhancements we're working on as well. All right, now what else did I want to look at? Oh, I wanted to look at placing these on the hangers and how that margin offset works, but I wanted to also illustrate just a couple of other things. I want to create a plan sheet to work on just to illustrate how that plan sheet could be edited and we can put the construction notes on it. So I'm going to create from my home ribbon a brand new model. I'm going to use the plus button and create a model. The model that I'm going to create is going to be a sheet model. And I'm going to create a sheet model from a particular seed. In this create model dialog, I've got this upper area and there's a little dot button that allows me to select the file. Seed 2D sheet, that's the file I want to select, but it will show me some options for selecting sheet seeds. A 2D sheet is just going to be a blank 11 by 17 inch sheet. So I'll go ahead and create that and I'll show you. It's just an untitled sheet. I'm just going to call it 2D sheet. That's what I created it from. And what we see when I get in there is the outline of a sheet. I have the sheet selected in the models dialog, and what we see on the right-hand side are the properties of that model. And what we can see is the sheet size is an ANSI B. It's 11 by 17. So I just created a blank piece of paper. Woohoo. Not really useful for me right now because I'd like a few other things to be there. Let's create another sheet from seed, but this one I'm going to select 11 by 17 that's described as being boundary, border, title block, and guidelines. That's the one I'm going to choose. This is my 11 by 17. And what I get from this one already has the printed border. It's got my border full cell already placed there with the guidelines, and it's got a title block. This is the one that I wanted to use to show you about the bubble tool. Let's see if we can get this to work. There's an additional cell that I want to place on this sheet. I'm going to find that cell on the ribbon workflow called ODOT plan sheet creation. And that cell is the note margin short. This is a short area on the right-hand side because I got the title block there. I'm going to choose note margin short and left click in the lower left corner of the sheet, not the printed boundary, the sheet. Left click, AccuSnap pulled me in. So there are my little cross beams that I want to anchor some construction notes to. How do I start up the bubble tool? Well, I can go to ODOT Roadway if I want and find the bubble tool under notes, I think. There's the bubble note tool. Notice it's going to use place note FD plans. I'm going to use number 1, and I'm going to check this margin offset. Well, let's place one without it. Notice if I place one without the margin offset, I'm snapping to that cross beam and it's centering it in the circle. That's maybe not what I want. So let's undo that one. And let's check the margin offset, and let's also auto increment just for grins. And I'm going to snap to the first hanger. I'm going to go down 3 more hangers and snap. I'm going to go down 3 more hangers and snap, 3 more hangers and snap. So I've got 4 notes. So that's how the increment works. If you don't auto increment, you just turn it off, it allows you to place multiple bubbles with the same one, or until you manually change it to something else.
You're using the wrong side of the hanger, Lenny.
I'm using what?
The wrong side of the hanger. The note was on that side, the bubble was on the other.
Thank you so much. I'm using the wrong side of the hanger. This is, why we don't record these normally. Let's just back off. Okie doke. Let's start with number 1, auto increment. I'm going to use the correct side of the hanger. Let me just start it up there. 1, 2, 3, maybe we want 4 there, 5. Okay, thank you. You're exactly right, because when I place my other note, I'm going to anchor it to the right-hand side. And then it will be aligned with the text. So the text inside the bubble will align with the text that I anchor on the right. Great. Now, if increment was off, it does work, as we can see, but it just works differently and allows you to manually put your number in. And Charlotte asks, is the text size different or is the circle smaller if you type 31A? Okay, so as we saw, the 31A, it doesn't work with 31A. If I type 31 in, nothing changes actually. Let me just place the 31. All right, start the bubble note tool.
No, I understand that it doesn't fit, but what I'm asking is in this new system, I mean, in this,
there's no difference.
Something changed from what we are currently using, because when I type 31A in our current bubble notes, 31A fits.
Oh, this is a different tool. Yeah, this is an entirely different tool. I think you're talking about V8i. So V8i used an entirely different tool. So this is a brand new tool. So yeah.
But did the bubble note get smaller, or did the text change? Like maybe there's a bigger gap between 3 and 1 or something? Because
all of those things, yes, may be true. This is an entirely different font. This is the Lucida Sans Unicode font. The V8i bubble tool used an ODOT font. So yes, they were very different.
I got that part too, but I'm kind of wondering if it would be easier to, if maybe we need to change the font in these bubble notes to better accommodate for the things that we need, rather than trying to sit there and shrink up some text in a bubble note.
That choice for how to enhance this bubble tool to handle alpha characters and more, that should be made in a working group where you'll look at all the options. We're not going to pick that today. I was just showing you how you could manually edit it if you needed to today. But for that enhancement, you'll get a working group that looks at, and they'll find the best solution for the tool in Connect to work. One of those things that they have done, like you said, is they've actually narrowed up the individual characters so that they fit inside. I don't know if that will be the option that's chosen, but that group will look at it and they'll come up with something that is accepted by the CAD standards. All right, and so let's see. What else was on my list to talk about? Oh, AccuDraw, compass, and I wanted to show about the AccuDraw compass. If you're using AccuDraw, I just want to go to the drawing ribbon workflow. I have a hard time locating things like the AccuDraw toggle. So sometimes when I have a hard time locating things, I will look in the search ribbon. So I'm going to type the word AccuDraw into the search ribbon, and I see that there are AccuDraw settings, and there's a toggle AccuDraw. So the toggle AccuDraw, my search window is telling me is on the drawing, home, primary, more. I never know which button is the more button. So it's probably one of these buttons that has a little down arrow, and there I'm hovering over it right now, and it says, it looks like the key in button, but that's the more button. It's the bottom rightmost one on primary, and there is an AccuDraw toggle there, and which I just turned it off, so I'll turn it back on. AccuDraw is sitting in my, it's docked actually in the interface at the bottom. So right now, the mode that AccuDraw is in is called rectangular. It shows an X and a Y. And if I wanted to use it in the polar mode, where I have a distance and direction instead of X and Y, I need to be able to change that mode. In the previous version of MicroStation in V8i, we could just hit the space bar and we could change the mode. But what happens when we hit the space bar in Connect is we get this great pop-up. Pop-up is great. I use the pop-up to measure things all the time because it's the fastest way for me to find the measuring tool. I'll hit the pop-up, hit measure, choose measure distance, and, you know, left click, and I get it. But you notice it's not changing the mode of AccuDraw. So the way to change the mode of AccuDraw is to make sure that AccuDraw has a focus and use Control M. M for mode. Control M on your keyboard, and that didn't do anything. So let me go into a place line command, and I'm going to do it Control M, and that's not doing anything. Love it. So let me type a question mark.
Is it just M alone? I thought it was a Control M, but.
Thank you. I just typed a question mark into. I'll show you how I did that. I love it when I make mistakes. So I clicked my mouse into the X field of AccuDraw and I typed a question mark. A question mark brings up your keyboard shortcuts for AccuDraw, and we can see that change mode is there, and it says just use the M. Lenny, you're trying to make this too hard. Okay, so with the focus, I type an M and it changes to polar. Yay. And we also saw how to pull up all of those keyboard shortcuts. So awesome. Personally, I prefer the XY. I'm going to type M again just to get back to the XY. Awesome. So that's AccuDraw. I also pointed out the search box. The search box is really handy because things are in a different location. If you're just starting out again from V8i, you're going to be doing maybe a lot more traveling and navigating through these different menus than you would prefer. Quite frankly, if I was down here working away on the ODOT Roadway ribbon, where there's very little, you know, that's coming from MicroStation itself, and I wanted to do something like, maybe I wanted to open my cell library dialog, or whatever. Maybe I wanted to do some annotations. I wanted to pattern something. You can type the word that you want. Like I just typed the word patter. I didn't even, there's the N, and it shows me all of my options for pattern area. I don't even have to go to another ribbon to start the pattern area tool. I can just click on it and it launches the pattern area tool. So if you have been going back and forth between the drawing ribbon workflow and maybe an ODOT ribbon workflow, try just typing what you're looking for into the search ribbon. There's element selection and choosing it off of there. After you do it a few times, you will get a recently used list, which is nice. I just click the little triangle at the far right, and there's my recently used list. So you can build a recently used list of items that you use, and it can make it even faster. And so you don't have to go between ribbon workflows as much as you think you do. When you're new to it, I mean, I was constantly going back and forth to this drawing ribbon workflow, and I got kind of tired of that. So there you go. Let's take a look at one more tool. I wanted to show you the place note tool because we've realized there's a slight difference that's important between V8i and Connect, and in this version of Connect that we're using. The place note tool is actually on the same ribbon that the pattern area tool is on. It's on the same ribbon as dimensions. It's all about annotation. Those tools are all on the drawing ribbon workflow on the annotate. You see text, notes, dimensioning, tables, detailing, cells, patterns. It's all here. There's my cell library. So it's all here. Place note. The place note command is in the notes group, and it looks like an A with a bent leader with an arrowhead. I'm going to choose the place note tool, and what you should do if you're going to use this tool is follow these steps. Execute place note, select a dimension style. The dimension style I'm going to select is ODOT decimal foot. I'm not actually dimensioning. FYI, I am not dimensioning. I am using a dimension style because the dimension style is what's going to draw the leader and the arrowhead. But I'm not actually dimensioning. So choose any of these dimension styles. It won't really matter. But then make sure that you see what's going on with these choices. Where are you starting? I'm starting at the terminator, not at the note. You can alter this. You can say, I want to start at the text, or do I want to start at the terminator? So I'm going to start at the terminator. Then notice it opened up the text editor when I launched place note. Inside the text editor, there is a text style. You'll want to make sure that you have chosen a good text style. This is the style that's going to be used when you type your information in. ODOT Notes is a great text style to begin with. It's used a lot of places. So ODOT Notes, I'm going to make sure ODOT Notes is chosen as my text style, and I'm going to type a little piece of text. This is important. Sure. Now, when I move my mouse into the viewing window, I'll notice in the lower left corner, place note command wizard is running, and it says define start point. Well, my start point is the terminator. So I need to find what I want to point at and left click on it. Then I see as I'm moving my mouse away, it's getting ready to draw that. And it places it. And I don't have my arrowhead. I'm going to do that one more time. This is important. I'm going to left click in space and place it. The reason I didn't see my arrowhead is because it was behind this masking. There was a masking element. Sorry, there was a masking element that surrounds the title block. And my arrowhead was underneath the masking element. You can kind of see it poking out there. But anyway, that's how it works. You can change your start in location. I can tell it to start at the text, and then I see the text following me around. And I can say, point at the text, and then left click where I want the arrowhead to be. So that's how you use place note. What we've noticed is that the dimension style oftentimes is not chosen, and you do not want the text editor to use none as your text style. So choose an ODOT text style, don't use none when you're placing your note. That way you'll get good notes. So there's place note. Any questions or comments? Let's see, Jeremy says, what is different then? You want to explain that more? What is different then? And if anybody else has a question or comment, feel free to unmute. Oh, then V8I.
Lenny, I got a question on the leader.
Okay, let me answer, Jeremy. There is very little difference, Jeremy. There's very little difference between Connect and V8I. Very little difference between Connect and V8I. It's just more important in Connect that you choose the text style. Go ahead with your question, Greg.
Sorry, I was trying to read the captioning and talk at the same time. Multiple lines of text on the place note, and if the leader line comes off the lower right, there seems to be a big airspace between the end of the text and where the leader line starts.
All right, I wasn't aware that I couldn't type as well. I wasn't aware that there was an issue with multi-line text. Looks to me like my leader line is coming off the first line.
It works off the top left just fine, but make it come off the third line to the right.
Place the arrow first and then put the text in. It will make a difference.
So Tracy says it makes a difference whether you start with the text or start with the terminator. So let me try starting with the terminator. Starting with the terminator, if I place my text to the right of the terminator, it comes off the top line. Starting with the terminator, if I place my line to the left, it comes off of the third line. It seems to do, to me, the same thing. Doesn't seem to make a difference.
There's a big space between line and the line itself.
So now we're talking about, I hear Tracy saying there's a vertical spacing or a horizontal spacing.
Horizontal, between where that line ends and where the word line ends. I get people that say there's a gap and I have to add a line in because it doesn't actually go over to where line is at.
Okay, so it seems like we have a gap between where the text is. Let me see if I can draw this. There's a gap between where the text begins. Well, here's the text justification point there, and there's a gap. There's a gap when it's on the right, and there's a gap when it's on the left. And I think I hear Tracy saying the gap is not consistent. I don't know that. But there's no justification point on the left, so we have to look at different things. But yes, there are gaps. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. There are gaps, whether it's on the left or the right. They look kind of the same to me, but honestly, it's not something that I've really worried about.
People are saying that the line should go over, so you have to add a line so it goes over to the third, because they're thinking just because it's under the first line and it's the right space, they want it to go all the way over because it's just kind of hanging out there on the one on the left.
So
the other one.
I understand that. This is a tool. So Tracy, it's pretty impossible to make this complex or simple tool to function differently in those different situations. So you either have a line or you don't. And so this one doesn't have a line in either situation. I don't think I can add a line just in one direction, but that is something that can be looked at, absolutely can be looked at, and we'd have to establish what the standard is. These are brand new, these dimension styles are brand new, and we still don't really have standard dimension styles. I think Charlotte mentioned that they've been working on them, right, in the CAD standards. So if this is something that needs to be added, let's make sure that our CAD standards representatives know, and so that they can make a decision about how to configure these styles. Yes, these horizontal lines can be added to the dimension style, but then you have to realize these dimension styles are used for other things. This place note, maybe we need some separate dimension styles just for place note that function differently. That could be a possibility. So we can make sure that our CAD standards reps take that information to the working group where we're working on these dimension styles. Yeah, I get that. I don't think I answered any question, but we just see that it is functioning differently when there are multiple lines of text. Greg, if that's what you wanted to point out, I think it's pretty obvious. It is functioning differently. So we'll hope that
yeah, I was just hoping that there was an obvious
no obvious solution
box to check or something where it would take care of it.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Line's longer than the first line, then it works just fine.
Actually, these lines are the same length. Like I said, the leader is drawn by the same style. They are the same length, but relative to
I meant lines of text. Sorry.
Yeah, they're the same length. It's the way the tool functions. So we can look at some options that provide a different result, but that'll have to be done in the creation of the dimension style. Yeah. Okie doke. Could the text be changed? Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of options, and there are standard ways to do things, and it's very important that we get these things working well for the most people, and then we'll get our workarounds in place, you know, for the fewer people. I want to thank you all for coming out today. Thank you to everybody else for coming and participating. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your day.